welcome to another episode of the Complete Agent Podcast, where each week we get together to talk all things estate agency. My name is Dave Warburton. As ever, I am joined by my industry colleagues, Mr. Ian Storey and Mr. James Kendall. And this week we have got the fourth musketeer, is that a thing?
It is now.
It is now. We have got Michelle on the call, which is great. And do you know what? I think one of the most popular podcasts that we've had in recent times was the one a couple of weeks ago, Michelle. Amazing feedback. I wasn't on it. Which,
wow. What's the common denominator there, Dave?
You know, I was expecting the ratings to plummet, and actually they've tripled. So it's probably time I moved on. But anyway, that's another story. How the hell has your week been? I'm going to go to you, Michelle.
Oh, do you know what? I've had a great week and a hard week. Both things can be true. So we were in London on Monday with the great team at Digital Sparks, recording some content for social media. An absolute disclaimer, I don't really do social media. Well, I do now, but previously to being part of TCA, I didn't do social media. I wasn't even on Facebook. So, this is something really new to me. And it was really interesting because I had so much kind of internal self-talk going on, quite critical. And if I had listened to that self-talk, I certainly wouldn't have done what we did on Monday. So I had to do lots of internal coaching to make sure that I showed up in the best way I could. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Did I enjoy it? Yes, when we finished. And will it be better next time? 100%. Good week, but very challenging.
Superb. What about you, JK?
Should we ask Ian? Ian, Ian, how's your week been?
Sort of van conversion.
We're doing all right, to be fair. Vals are definitely lighter at the moment, being completely honest, and looking into May. It's the first time I think I've looked into probably 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead, and we haven't been stuffed with valuations, which is a first. But I think that's kind of across the board. I was speaking to Ian earlier, and he was quite similar. Deals being done, but equally we've got quite a lot in photography that is still ready to launch. And naturally, a lot of that will feed into new inquiries and generate sort of new vals moving forward. Looking at the diary, so I've got one shoot today. Had some good vals actually this week as well. Went to a really nice one in a lovely village, sort of on the border of Beds and Bucks, at 1.5 on the market last year at 1.75. Had a probate valuation to go to, which was a friend of mine's mum. She's still alive, but unfortunately her husband's passed away, and it was a 45-minute valuation with 5 minutes of talking about the house and 40 minutes of giving her a cuddle and listen to her be upset, bless her. But she appreciated that. I mean, it's probably quite nice that it was me doing it rather than somebody else. That was, it was a little bit of a challenge, to be fair, because it's never nice to see people that you care about upset. So, but it's one of them sort of sensitive situations you have to handle. Obviously, we had, as Michelle quite rightly said, the TCA session at Digital Sparks, which was good. We've had another val last week on Friday that I went to, another couple of shoots last week. I mean, to be fair, I mean, we've had, I think after the pod last week, I think I said I was going to a place, I don't know if we actually discussed it, but went to a place that was on the market with another agent. Marketing was poor, hadn't been staged and styled. Again, unfortunately, this gentleman had lost his wife. And there was a room just full of paperwork, another room full of like her belongings, etc., that he was planning to clear. And the previous agent had just gone snap, put it online, like forced him into a corner, gave him a high price, and then actually beat him down on price later on. So it was on at sort of 750. We've got that down to 7. And we're staging and styling it, and he's going to be ready in the next 3 or 4 weeks. We've helped him with some people that are going to help him clear out the house and get that going. So, I mean, that's, again, a really nice property in a really popular village as well. So it's a great instruction to get. But yeah, we've launched a few, couple of £1 million in the last week as well that we've got viewings on. So it does seem to be activity, and we'll obviously break it down in the pod. And there's a couple of different topics we're going to go through with things like the market and Michelle's experience of sort of social media, and break that down a bit more. But no, overall, apart from, Val's been a little bit lighter, definitely busy in the market, lots of take-ons, lots of shoots happening. But yeah, pretty positive overall. How about you, Mr. Ian Storey? Are you in the room with us, Ian? I feel like I'm using a Ouija board.
No, I am in the room. This is not an AI version of me. You'll be pleased to hear it is the real me. Well, we're really good. All things are good. Yeah, we had did our latest property market update yesterday, which me and Phil filmed. And as of yesterday, we've agreed 18 sales in the last 4 weeks.
Nice. That's really
between
good.
350 and 1.8.
350. You only sell houses over £1 million.
I know. I was a little bit sick in my mouth when I said 350, but we did actually, we did sell it because it was just about on brand.
Yeah, but that's 1% though, right? Because people at 350 don't pay 2%, do they?
That's right. They don't. And do you know what? There's loads of agents in that area overvaluing as well. So we do.
And undercutting you on fee.
Yeah, I know. And undercutting us on fee as well. Can you believe? So good on sales, good on listings. Some really good listings coming through from both Matt and myself. We put 2 gold dust listings on last night, 650 and 850, and they both had inquiries immediately.
Nice.
Which is always brilliant, isn't it, when that happens?
Well, the Rightmove data says on that if you get an email inquiry in the first 24 hours, it's 90% likely to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers, Simon.
On the 651, we've already booked 2 viewings from our pre-launch marketing as well. So that'll be 3 viewings on that, and they're buying one off us. So really, it feels good. We had a couple of little renegotiations recently, but our sales progression guys have managed to mitigate those. A couple we've managed to get no renegotiation at all, just by pushing back and being firm for our clients. And a couple of very small ones, sort of $5,000 here and there on some nice mid to high end homes. So that's all good. Yeah, I'm just wondering when our next run of fall throughs is coming, really, because it feels it's probably due.
Hey, can we book a table in the pub? Do you want to come down to Bedford this time rather than me going to Edgerton or Bolton, wherever it is?
Never heard of it.
It was a lovely pub, to be fair.
And we had some great shoots as well. I'm sure you've all had the same, but in the last few weeks, the weather's been so good, hasn't it? We've done some amazing shoots. I was doing a twilight last night at a really lovely Victorian house that's coming on the market. I was there at like 9 o'clock at night, which is good at this time of year because you can do a live, can't you, and advertise what you're doing for your clients. So it's good. Another bank holiday weekend coming up, and we're going to a food festival on Sunday where James Martin's going to be there. So
who's that?
Going to meet James Martin. He is a really handsome chef. Yeah, I think you'd quite like him if you saw him.
Okay.
He's going to be there.
More handsome than me?
Definitely more handsome than you.
Okay.
And he's going to be there on Sunday. So we're looking forward to that, taking the kids and stuff. So yeah, all good, mate, really.
Oh, good. Well, so let's get into offer. I think we should... chivalry is not dead. Ladies first. Michelle, should we unpack sorry. It's 2026. Dave. Michelle, shall we unpack the filming day and how you felt? And because I just feel like there's some real value in that for listeners that are different to the usual on the podcast, having your perspective on how you felt. Because, obviously us three are already, on camera all the time and it's just kind of second nature. But for anyone listening to this that isn't in front of the lens and has apprehension about what they should or shouldn't be doing, how they might feel about it, it's new. Can you break it down?
I can. Do you know what, JK? You ask me to unpack all the time.
It's because you're sitting there with loads of boxes in the background.
Do you know what though? I've noticed that JK does. He asks you to unpack while you're already unpacking. You ever noticed that? You'll be in the middle of saying something. Just stop there a minute, Michelle. Can you unpack that as well? So yeah, shut up, JK. Let's unpack.
No, I'm pulling your leg. So yeah, do you know what? It's really interesting because my part and my role. I mean, I haven't done front side estate agency for quite a few years. Really, I've always been behind the scenes. So when I was listing, video wasn't a thing. So I've never done it, never really got in front of the camera. So doing this, well, there's two things going on for me. Firstly, I'm perimenopausal, so my hormones are wild, absolutely wild. And with that comes a massive dose of anxiety, self-doubt, all of those brilliant things that just, you feel like the rug has just been pulled out from under you. So I've got that going on. And then also I've got the thing that I've never done it. I'm not, well, I say I'm not. I am getting better at social media day by day. Did you see that reframe in action there? Because you're careful what you say to yourself because you're listening. So I'm getting better at social media, but it's not something that I do frequently. So when we'd booked in this day on Monday, I know it's something that is going to be really valuable for TCA because it will help explain to more people about what we do. And ultimately, I'm passionate about doing that. And I was absolutely shitting my pants that I was going to have to get in front of the camera. So leading up to it, just to kind of talk you through, I just had so much internal self-talk and doubt. And I am quite a confident person. I can stand up in a room of 100 people and present. That does not faze me in the slightest. But the fact that it was going to be in front of a camera, oh my God. So the first thing I noticed was a kind of feeling in my body, which was kind of clenching in my stomach, in my throat. And because I do this all the time, I am very self-aware. So it made me just go inwards and think, what's going on here? What's happening? And I kind of checked my thoughts, and my thoughts were literally just ripping me to shreds.
What were your thoughts? Can we unpack that?
Yeah. You're an idiot.
I'm being serious though. No, genuinely, like, what were you thinking? Like,
I was thinking, you're not going to be any good at this. You are going to make a fool of yourself. People don't want to hear from you. So just wild thoughts. And actually, when I kind of stopped and thought about it, all of those thoughts were not based in logic.
They're also all not true either.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know that. But that doesn't mean that those thoughts don't happen. So, this is your subconscious mind. And ultimately, that's your primal brain. It's trying to keep you safe. So back in hunter-gatherer times, that front part of your brain is what would make you fight or flight and be on high alert for a saber-toothed tiger coming to eat you. We haven't really evolved from there. So because I was feeling fear about something, whether that fear was rational or not, that is what happens in your body. It tries to keep you safe, so it'll do everything it can to kind of undermine you and keep you within your comfort zone. So that's what was going on internally. Luckily, it's not my first rodeo dealing with this type of stuff. So I was able to kind of bring myself back down, regulate my nervous system out of that fight and flight. And when I noticed these thoughts coming up, I don't know if you guys noticed, but when we were first at the studio, one of the first things that came out with my mouth was, I'm shit at social media. And then immediately I went, sorry, I just need to say that again. I'm getting better and better at social media today.
Yeah.
Because what you say is really important because your subconscious mind is listening. Words are extremely important. So that is kind of one of the practical tools that I used.
Have you heard of the chimp paradox before, the book?
Yeah, I love it. It's Professor Steve. Yeah.
Because that is, Steve, I don't know if you two have read that before as well, but it's the chimp paradox, and it's all about so there's three parts of your state, and basically there's the emotional state of you, which is the chimp, then there's the human, and there's the computer, and it's basically what your body knows, what your body's learned, and then kind of like your emotional state. And that's probably the worst way to explain it. But having read,
that's not the book I read. Okay.
But it's how, like, for example, if something happened, like if somebody does something wrong to you, again, this is the context I've got it in. is if somebody wrongs you or calls you out on something, the chimp is the first one to react, and that's kind of like the emotional, like one that wants to shout and go, how dare you, rah, 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 when it's not the logical part. But anyway, sorry, I just thought I'd throw that in. If anyone loves to listen to a book, and I think I'm not huge on self-help books, but that's one that helped me along the way when understanding and becoming more emotionally intelligent with dealing with situations. The Chimp Paradox is a great book. But yeah, sorry, continue.
Yeah, do you know what, JK? It is a great book because it simplifies it in a great way. And I think you can really take the Chimp Paradox on board and kind of identify. But the thing I think is really important is if you haven't got awareness, because we all have that, we all have a inner critic, we all have, the neural pathways that are wired to keep us safe. And if you are not aware of that, actually, that chimp, if we're talking in those terms, they're driving your bus. They're the one that are making the decisions in your life. It has a place. It's really important, but it can't be the one driving the bus. So to say that this week has been a challenge is definitely true. However, it's been a good challenge because I obviously did it, have managed to let go of actually what it'll end up being and think, great, well, I've got a chance to do it again and learn more. So I do think it's really important to share things like this because I coach people on this type of stuff all the time because the biggest thing that stops people being as successful as they want to be is actually themselves. And it's all of this stuff that happens in the background that prevents people from pushing forward. So it's important to show that it happens to everyone and also that you can self-coach. You can coach yourself through it once you're aware of actually what's happening.
So can I ask you a quick question then? Could you give like 3 practical tools for somebody that might feel the same? Yeah,
I think awareness is always in your body. So if you are feeling anxiety is actually a flag. That is your body's way of saying something is not feeling right. So
can we break down anxiety a little bit more as well? Because I feel like, and then this is from somebody that has, and I'm happy to jump in here as well, that you remember at the TCA day when we talked about the valuation that I had, we were sharing personal experiences.
Yeah.
And I talked about having an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
Like up to that point in my life, bear in mind, I was probably, 32 years old, I think, or something like that at that point. I'm 40 now. I'd gone through 32 years of my life and had never experienced a panic attack, anxiety attack. So I had no idea. And I knew people had had them before, and I'm like, what are you panicking about? Relax. And it's only when it happened to me that you realise that it's very real. And there might be people listening to this that have gone, panic attack, soft. And it's only when it actually happens that you realise what on earth is going on here. So to give you an idea of what happened to me in that moment, obviously everyone's body and brain is built differently, is for me it started with my ears ringing, and it never happened before. And I remember saying to the people across the desk or the table from me, can you hear that ringing noise? And they looked at me like, what are you on about? No, can't hear that ringing noise. And then all of a sudden, like when the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, like not in a good way, but like in a, I feel like I'm going to be sick kind of way. And then your face starts getting really hot. And then all of a sudden, then I could feel I could hear my heartbeat in my head. And I was convinced I was having a heart attack. And I wasn't having a heart attack. I was having a panic attack. And I went to the hospital afterwards and they checked me over and they said, no, you got the heart of a 20-year-old for a fat bloke. But they, they said it was that was an anxiety attack. But that builds up from things that maybe you aren't necessarily dealing with. I mean, this doesn't necessarily need to be the whole mental health part of it, but I think it's important to talk about because I don't think it is talked about enough. And I think personal experience of recognizing what something like that is helps you move forward. And because again, touch wood, having dealt with a lot of stuff personally since then, and those sort of books like The Chimp Paradox have helped. I haven't had one since. And there are practical tools that you can use to help. But just so if somebody may have experienced that before and doesn't know what that is, that's what it felt like to me. Maybe you felt like that before. But anxiety manifests itself in different ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, I can speak on a personal level. Mine, generally, I feel it in my stomach. And it just feels, that... did you ever get in trouble at school?
No.
Yeah, shut up. Is it? You were all in trouble. You were all that for a minute. That feeling, or I don't know, I was coming home to my mum and I'd obviously not come home when I was meant to. That feeling of knowing you're going to get an absolute bollocking. So the bottom of your tummy goes. But also it's kind of not having the patience, being quite short-tempered, and reacting rather than, quickly, rather than being your normal kind of measured self. So it shows up in a lot of ways, but actually, that they're just a few of the ways. But as I said before, with hormones, that can happen for actually no reason whatsoever. Everything's fine, you're not stressed, and then you just get these waves of anxiety, which are just awful. I don't even know what question you asked me, JK, because you...
We just said, sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent. That's really unlike me.
I know.
I'm really sorry for that.
Michelle,
Yeah,
I want to ask you a question. So I am, like probably many people, I think, maybe not Storey and JK.
I think you are, mate. No,
very quick to just implement stuff like that. I'm a bit of an overthinker.
Yeah.
So what naturally causes that kind of thing, and how can it be dealt with? And it's not, I guess, like on a personal level, I do it, but equally, obviously, within the business. And sometimes it can cloud your judgment, take you too long to make decisions. Sometimes you just to be bang, bang, bang. You overthink situations. Sometimes make things up in your head. Let's give an example maybe of a bad call that you've got to make. Imagine that you've got to really make a bad phone call to a seller. And you play every scenario out in the world. Me and JK have had some intense conversations, I would say, JK, about various different situations in work quite recently. And you play the situation out as if it's happening. Yeah. And none of it's even occurred yet.
No.
And it could be anything. It could be a really tricky conversation with a staff member. It could be a really tricky conversation with a really terrible seller. It might be a fallen sale right at the death where you've got to let people know, and people put it off.
Yeah.
Play the conversation over and over in the head rather than, just going, right, this sale's fallen through, or this team member needs to go, or such a thing needs to happen. What leads to it, and how is it best dealt with, that kind of thing? And like I say, maybe estate agency, obviously, because that's what we're here talking about, but even personally as well. It filters out into your personal life, doesn't it?
Of course it does. Do you know what, Dave? It's so common, that it really is. And a couple of things. In a estate agency, this is really common because we have to deliver bad news quite a lot, or we have to have emotionally intense conversations. So this is likely to be happening in your team as well. So the reason why I'm NLP trained, and one of the presuppositions of NLP is that every behaviour has a positive intention. So even when
before you carry on, can you just explain what NLP is? I know what that means, but not everyone else that's going to listen is it. What is NLP?
It's neuro-linguistic programming. So it is basically a set of presuppositions and tools and techniques which help people when you're coaching them. So, as I said, one of the presuppositions is every behaviour has a positive intention. So even though that is not helpful to you at the moment, so the overthinking and the replaying, you are doing that because your brain thinks that it's got a positive intention. what do you think the positive intention is, Dave, from you having that behaviour?
What do I think the positive intention is from me having that behaviour? I don't know.
I would say to avoid a negative outcome.
Yeah. That would be one possible.
So do you mean why am I overthinking that situation and playing it out the way I am?
Why do you overthink in general?
Yeah. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Why you overthink in general may well be because your brain is trying to avoid a negative outcome. And the way that your brain has wired itself is if you think about things and play them over, then you've prepared for every single scenario to avoid a negative outcome.
Mm.
So that can be one. It could be that you care deeply about getting the right outcome, whether that's for a client or a member of the team. And you are very well practiced in the pattern of overthinking and coming up with all these different scenarios. Now, you've brought it up, so my guess is that you're not finding that very helpful. And just to add in, when you replay something in your mind, you actually have the same emotional response in your body as if it's actually happening. So you might have this, not that you would ever have crosswords with your partner, but if you've ever had a row with anybody, afterwards, if you kind of run it through again, you think, oh God, I wish I'd said that, or I can't believe I didn't come back with that. You're actually emotionally going through what happened in the argument, and your body is having the same physical response, the same hormones are being released in your body. So when people say about forgiveness, if you can't forgive, you are swallowing the poison again and again and again because you are holding on to it. So going back to the overthinking, and you need to decide, is this something that you want to let go of, yes or no? Dave?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me why. Why is it that you want to let go of it? What's going to be the positive outcome for you of letting go of the overthinking?
Less anxiety.
Yeah.
I guess. And obviously worry. And taking that home as well, I think would be a thing.
Yeah.
And letting it creep into other areas of life as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably those things. And I'm being quicker to make decisions. But ultimately, I think the subconscious worry as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is pointless. It gets you nowhere. And the reality is so often very different than what the thinking is in your head. So the positive for me would be that feel that you have in your tummy all the time. Get rid of that. It's gone.
Absolutely. So that sounds like a great outcome for you to have. So what needs to happen, and we probably need to not do this totally on the podcast because this could last about half an hour, but what I would encourage you to do is, once you know that something needs to happen, is I really like the Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it. Because you need a technique or a tool to interrupt what is your normal pattern, and your normal pattern is the rumination and the overthinking. So you need to have a go at putting something else in place. Now, we can have a chat offline and we can talk through different things of what you can do. But once you do something different, it's then about the repetition. So the patterns that we run, I like to think about, if you've got a massive meadow full of meadow grass that's up to your knee, there will be one route that everybody walks, and that bit of grass is flattened. So it's the obvious route to walk through the field. What you need to do is to create a different route that will give you a different outcome. The first few times you do that, it's tricky. You're kind of wading through tall grass. But if you practice that route and go along that route enough times, it becomes well worn and trod, and the other one will start growing back. So that will then be the obvious route to get through your field.
I like it. I like that. I do.
I'll put my bill in the post.
What about you, Ian? What can we drill down on you?
No, I'm all good, mate.
Yes. Listen, you get it every month. He's like, Christ, I've been coached within an inch of my life. Leave me alone.
So I've got a friend of mine, Ian. He would like to know how to be more vocal on the podcast each week. Is there any practical tips you could?
Yeah.
But I do think, I mean, look, that's great. I think one of the, and again, I'm not a coach from an NLP point of view, but some practical tips that have helped me. I mean, obviously, Dave has been a great sounding board for me. I remember the conversation we had probably 6 to 8 weeks ago now. Or again, as you kind of alluded to, Dave, about a client that we had, and it's a big deal, and they were buying through me, and it was a kind of a fee conversation. We were kind of butting heads on fee, and it was being very difficult, and it was just helpful to sometimes, I was doing the right thing, but like you said earlier, Michelle, I was kind of getting in the way of myself a little bit. One of the practical tools that I've used, it's great that obviously I've got you three to talk and pick up the phone to if I want to or anything, but in those situations where maybe I don't want to run it by somebody and I want to sort of practice it myself. I had a incident recently with a client where a client complaint came in, and as Dave kind of alluded to, you overthink it and you play the worst possible scenario out in your head and what it's going to look like, and you stress yourself out. And as you said, Michelle, your body has the same reaction to your sort of mental state. But one of the things I found really helpful, and I know there's a lot of talk about AI in the industry, but one of the things that I love to use AI for is as a sounding board. So, for example, when you need to have a difficult conversation and you're not quite ready to maybe open it up to a friend or family or whoever, to have that conversation kind of in private. And I've done this with Claude, I've done this with ChatGPT before. I've given the AI the context around the scenario, and what I've found really helpful is told the AI the outcome I want in an ideal world. And then what I've done is I've allowed the AI to assume the role of me in voice mode, as in the person delivering the news. And I have been the person I'm delivering the news to or having the conversation with, or the person making the complaint. And I've tried to be the worst possible emotionally state person to make their life difficult. And literally, it's been incredible how the AI has kind of shut me down logically, if that makes sense, and calmly. And once you've played that out a few times and thought about it, and then reversed the roles and said, right, now you be the difficult client and make my life a misery, follow the script that you've got. I then, when I had to make that call to that client, had that conversation with that difficult client 4 or 5 times over. And I had my prompts on the screen, and a couple of the scenarios that I had planned for came out in that conversation. And because I'd had that conversation before, I was then able to calmly respond, without reacting emotionally. I could calmly respond and say, well, actually, again, we talk about Chris Voss sometimes before, when, never split the difference. And Dave, you're a massive advocate of tone of voice and how you say things. And if somebody says something to you like, well, you said that you would do this and this has made me feel like this, then you go, well, no, I haven't. Whereas if you slow it down and your tone of voice is much more calm, assured, let the person finish, let them say what they need to say, and then respond in a calm, collected way, acknowledge what they've said, and then respond in a calm, collected way. You're bringing them down rather than aggravating the situation. So that's just a practical tool that I've used. I know lots of people love to use AI for all sorts of different things, but it's just a use case I've found with advanced voice mode that's really helped me.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, JK. Just one thing that popped in my head then. This is a really old book, but actually it's the principles for relating on a human level in the right way, and it's How to Win Friends and Influence People by
Dale Carnegie.
I mean, shit title. You wouldn't want to read that on a bus, would you?
No.
But still, there's just some very core principles. Allow the other person to save face. believe in the other person's best intention. And the thing that I say all the time is know the outcome. So before you start something, understand actually what the outcome is that you want to arrive to for both parties ideally, and go in without a preconceived notion of how it's going to play out, because that will, again, impact the questions you ask and how you respond. So try and go in with an open mind, but knowing the outcome you want to get to. So no, I think that's a really interesting tip, JK.
Yeah, I think that they're all good things that you can sort of implement on a daily basis. And I do feel like it's been really valuable from a sort of maybe a mental health standpoint. So is there anything else that we could unpack? And we talked about anxiety and dealing with the anxiety side of things. But, you know, from the outside looking in, obviously you internalised all of that. And me, Ian and Dave probably sat there thinking, because you said, oh, you know, I've not done this before, and then bam, you went on first and smashed it. Like, so for us three, you know, we didn't, you held it together, and we had absolutely no idea. You know, you looked like you'd done 10,000 of those video shoots before, and it was no biggie.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you. There is a reason I went first. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boof. Because
Nice.
if watching you three do it, the anxiety would have just risen and risen. So there's a reason I just thought, no, just do it, and do it, and that's it. So, yeah, you know, I think that the key takeaway is, even if something's scary, you know, if it's something that you do really want to do, you've just got to do it. Just push yourself and do it. That's it. There's no kind of rocket science behind it. Just do it. And yeah, as I said before, I think next time I do it, it will be infinitely better. But it was good enough, and it was the best I could have done on the day. So again,
I think next time we do it, I'm going to figure out the mileage from all of your addresses to mine in time for the quiz. Because I definitely got stitched up.
Oh my God, that quiz was horrific. So yeah, that was horrific. Like, I just I couldn't even contemplate the questions. I'd lost what he'd even asked, and then just buzzed, because obviously I was against Ian at first and highly competitive with him. So, oh no, that quiz was awful.
Yeah, well, if we actually go to VAR when they're released, you'll notice that Ian is the only one that didn't stand with his hands behind his back. He had his hands by his side, so he was at an advantage. I didn't get to face him. But you know, I also feel like I got losers up as well.
It's so bad when people are such sore losers, isn't it?
Personally, I think I would like to go on record and say I was the real winner on the day.
Of course you were, Jane.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Sure.
But no, it was a lot of fun, and I do think that, you know, if there's anyone listening to this that is apprehensive about getting on camera, you know, it's 2026. You know, we've been doing this for years. I mean, 8 to 10 years now on video, and you know, video isn't going anywhere. It's only ramping up. You know, 95% of the internet at the moment is video, and if you're not doing video in your business, then start. You know, the whole Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So you just need to start.
Those are very wise words, JK. Very wise words, and a great way to end the podcast, I think. It's been very valuable for everybody that's listening today, I'm sure. And
I would just like to extend my thanks. I'd like to extend my thanks to Ian for his valuable input on this podcast.
Thanks.
By all means, guys, if you're listening to this and you'd like to unpack it or talk about coaching or talk about TCA, because it's not just selling £1 million homes, it's part of the process, but there is so much more. If you are interested, then drop us a DM, but otherwise we will see you all next week.
Thank you very much.